Back in 2024, when I decided to start playing Roblox again, there was a few games I was playing, nothing really crazy or interesting. But then there was something in my recommendation tab, a game called Sonic.exe The Disaster. It had a lot of players, and I was kind of on a Sonic.exe kick at the moment, so I figured, why not? It was a multiplayer game where a bunch of players had to work together to survive the killer till an exit spawned. It was around October when I first played the game, near the end of their Halloween event. When I first logged in, I sat in lobby for 2 hours because I was too scared to actually play the game, and I hopped off for the night. Fast forward a week after the event ended, I decided to give another shot, and it was one of the best decisions of my life. I'm not entirely sure what clicked inside me that made me love these type of games so much, but after the game went down and Alec made a post talking about what happened to the game, I was pretty devastated to say the least. Favorite game on Roblox getting unceremoniously killed for no real reason and no real elaboration was pretty disheartening to say the least. Even though the game is currently gone at the moment, a reimagine's coming out soon, and I just want to talk about TD for a bit, and the genre of games as a whole that was created by TD existing. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I want more people to know how great it is. I don't see enough people talking about how much love and care has actually gone into the game as a whole to make it so special. And before anyone asked, all the footage I'm using is old recorded footage I have when I used to make crappy EXE videos. No, I will not unprivate them. The biggest thing that makes TD as fun as it was for me was that it was practically a straight one-for-one recreation of the popular Sonic.exe Choose Your Own Adventure games. For those that don't know, Sonic.exe Spirits of Hell is probably one of the most influential Sonic.exe fan games to come out of the fandom. The main reason for this was because it was a choose your own adventure game where you're able to actually save Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman, and you get different endings depending on who's alive and who's not. TD replicates the feeling of the choose your own adventure system very well because every game is a different story you're playing through, and it's up to you and the other players to decide who's going to make it out alive and who's going to be dead at the end of the game. When someone in that game died, it felt awful and you can feel the impact of their presence not being there. And in TD, when one of your teammates dies, it feels awful. That's one of your teammates that just got slaughtered, and maybe there's something more you could have done, maybe you did everything, but at the end of the day, they died and there's nothing that can undo it. Every time someone dies, it makes the situation you're in feel a lot more grim and hopeless, just like how it does in the Spirits of Hell. When someone dies, their presence is gone now and they're not going to be there for the final showdown. Another thing about the characters is that they feel like one-for-one replicas from the games that they were based off of, the Sonic.exe games. They play almost identically to how they operate in-game, i.e. Eggman's jetpack has a charging mechanic to it, Tails has his glide and his arm cannon, and Knuckles just has his punch and blocking. Like, that's pretty self-explanatory. And in characters like Blaze, Silver, Shadow, and Rouge, characters that aren't in the original popular media, they took liberties and they made them more classic, if that makes sense. I love the way they implemented them. It just feels like they're from the classic era, especially with how they went about making the models look in game. I'm not going to go into too much more detail about how the characters operate. With the games being down, I can't get footage for them and properly showcase them. Just know that every character was very fun and fleshed out, and that I loved how well they were replicated from the media they were based off of. When it comes to the atmosphere of the game, it does a really good job at representing the media it's basing all of its stuff on. Every single map in the game is referenced to iconic levels from pretty much any of the original Sonic.exe medias. They feel just as grim and depressing as they do in their original counterpart games, and I actually think they feel a bit more depressing than they do in the original games. Every character that had any major role in the Choose Your Adventure games have a map dedicated to them, except for Sally. Act 9 never got properly added to the game. I'm assuming they planned to add it at one point, but they just never got to it before the game got taken down. The hill is Tails' map, and the hill map in the genre has been varied between pretty much any iteration of it. In TD, the map is very dark and gray. There's no colors whatsoever. You can barely see the colors of the characters. A heavy thunderstorm is happening in the middle of it, and there's no music whatsoever. You can find dead animal bodies either hanging or just lying around. And if nobody picks Tails for the map, you'll actually see him and his plane crash later on through the round. This is a unique feature that TD does, where if a character for their map isn't picked, you can actually find their dead body somewhere in the map, implying in this story they were already killed before the others could get to them. I think Hill as a whole portrays how these stories start pretty well, a really depressing atmosphere and Tails fucking dying. You Can't Run is the second map in the TD roster. For the most part, every version of You Can't Run in every media tends to be a constant and never really changes, with the industrial theme and the red sky and tinted hue. And TD pretty much does the exact same thing. It has a very red hue to the atmosphere to it, metal industrial plating pretty much everywhere, and buzzsaws lining the floors. And the map belongs to Knuckles. The map itself feels incredibly massive with how big the structures are and the lack of a ceiling. Even though some maps don't have ceilings as well, and You Can't Run, when you look up, you can just kind of see more of the red hue stretching indefinitely. It doesn't really feel like there's a ceiling or skybox, it just feels like it goes on forever. While it doesn't have the depressing atmosphere of Hill, it very much leans into a very eerie setting. It feels unnerving in that anything can happen, and the wide open area just makes it easier for you to get spotted. And just like Hill, if you don't pick Knuckles for this map, you'll find his decapitated body with his head pierced against the wall. And the music choice of using Gygas' theme from Earthbound fits perfectly. It adds to the eerie and unsettling tone the map presents, and it just makes it feel even more unnerving. It's probably one of my favorite maps in the game, mostly just because after everything is said and done, when the final 80 hits, everything changes in tonal shift. I'll cover final 80s more later on. I want to talk about that extensively instead of just small bits here and there during the maps. Period, or Hill Gym in more recent terms, is the third map of the game. It belongs to Eggman, and just like You Can't Run, it shares the map really has never changed over time besides a few tweaks here and there. In terms of atmosphere, it's very eerie. It's pretty dark, but not dark enough to where you can't see your colors are saturated. The checkerboard pattern on the floor and the fact that the fires around are kind of your only light source just kind of adds to the atmosphere a lot. There's no blood, dead animals, traps, anything. I think the fact that the map doesn't present anything more actually adds a lot more to how disturbing it can be. It's just you, your teammates, and the killer trying to slaughter you all. The nature of the map itself also makes it to where a lot of your abilities that are used will have an echo effect to them. And the music for the map has been constant in every variation of it. While the track has definitely been overused in recent times, at least in TD, it adds a lot more eeriness. It's slow, eerie, gives you a sense of unease. It just really complements the map it's representing. And if no one picks Eggman for the map, you'll find his broken jetpack that didn't launch off still have a bit of fumes coming out of it, and if you follow where you found it, you'll find Eggman's body cut in half. I like the map a lot, and I also really appreciate how it feels one for one just like from the original games. Depending on who you ask will depend on what order the maps are supposed to be in. Realistically, I should be talking about Hide and Seek Act 1 and Act 2 after the section of Hill, but I wanted to cover the main three before I delve into the future stuff that happened. Hide and Seek Act 1 is based on the very iconic chase sequence with Tails and Sonic.exe. Everything is on fire. The only color is your characters standing out like a sore thumb in between all the fire of red and orange. Waterfalls of lava and any shapes of water have turned to lava as well. While there are no dead bodies, animals, or blood anywhere, the map itself is very eerie and depressing. A once beautiful forest of trees, life, and animals just turned into a hellscape of burning fire, and the music complements it very well. It can be a bit hard to hear at first before it picks up because the fire drowns it out a lot, but when you start to hear it, it's very depressing and eerie. It feels dystopian to listen to, but at the same time, it's oddly therapeutic. It's something that sounds like when you're listening to it, you'll just be standing there looking at all the carnage that's happened. They took some liberties when it comes to the original, basically making a lot more on fire and orange and red compared to having more yellow and slightly more life. Since Tails already has a dedicated map, they decided not to make Hide and Seek Act 1 and Hide and Seek Act 2 maps for him. That way they couldn't put his dead body into 3 separate maps. Because of that, Hide and Seek Act 1 actually doesn't have a body you can find. I actually think the fact that there's nothing to find besides the Burning Wastelands actually adds a lot more to the map than being able to find someone's body here. It just adds to the fact it's just you and your friends in a burning hellscape trying to survive the monster that created this. Hide and Seek Act 2 is the map that comes after Hide and Seek Act 1, and is just kind of I don't think it's bad by any means, but it doesn't have the same tonal shift and impact that all the other maps have. While everything is a lot more gray and black and there's not really a lot of color, the music track for it doesn't really sound eerie or depressing or anything. Just kind of sounds like some basic background music you'd hear in a cave adventure or something. However, because you are in a cave, the echo is at its strongest here. You can hear everything a lot more clearer, so you have a good idea where everyone's at. But at the same time, once you're hearing that stuff, that means you know your friends are in trouble. There's also not a whole lot of light in the map. It's a lot more darkened, but not impossible to see. This was also originally a Tales map in the game it's based off of, but it got repurposed to be a Rouge map, so they had a reason to put her dead body somewhere. You can find her body in one of the mine hallways with her skull cracked open, eyes missing, and leaning against a wall with just blood leaking out of her. While I definitely think the map is the weakest in terms of environment atmosphere, I still think it's a good map, and it does a really good job at representing the map it was based off of in the games. Hide and Seek Act 2 is a map that's supposed to take place directly after Act 1, and in my opinion is probably the weakest map in the game. Not Perfect is the map that's supposed to be the first in the Sally.exe installment. It's Amy's dedicated map, and it's probably one of the best maps in the game, if not the best. It takes place in one of the bonus zones from the old games, and basically a reference to the Amy level from Sally.exe. There's a lot of pink, blue, yellow around the map, but the atmosphere of the map is very eerie and depressing. The map has a kind of light fog that adds a surprising amount of unsettlingness to the already unsettlingest nature of the map. The map is trying to be deceptively welcome to make you feel not like you're in danger. However, there's a lot of small stuff that actually completely contradicts that. Besides the light fog adding a unsettling atmosphere to the map, the music is very eerie and creepy. It's a modified version of one of the old bonus round themes from the old Sonic games. It feels distorted, it feels depressing, and just makes the whole map as a whole feel a lot more unsettling to be a part of. But there's a lot more to the map than just this section. After a certain amount of time, an exit ring will spawn that'll take you to the second section of the map. However, if you're still in this part of the map for too long, the colors will completely change. It'll be a black and red, and the music will get a lot more creepy to listen to. You're being prompted to leave as soon as you can because you'll start to slowly die if you're there for too long. But once you enter the ring, you'll be teleported to a very depressing sight and setting. There's no music here besides just ambience and cave noises. It's very black and red, and there's a small echo to the map as well. And if you don't pick Amy, you won't find her dead body in Not Perfect or after the map goes to hell. You'll find it at the entrance of the exit ring that drops the killer off in the second section of the map. Her skull will be crushed in by her own hammer. The implications of this is that she actually made it through the Not Perfect section, but the killer was just waiting for her and proceeded to slaughter her the second she jumped out the ring. This is probably my favorite map in the game. It does so much stuff that I just adore compared to some of the other maps in the game. Kind and Fair is the second map in the Sally.exe game, and it belongs to Cream. Compared to every other map in the game, Kind and Fair is probably the only map that doesn't make you feel unsettled, scared, or has an eerie tone or depressing vibe to it. It's very bright and colorful, it's very upbeat, the music is very not scary, but I actually think this fits the map perfectly, especially since it's supposed to be a map dedicated to Cream. It feels very upbeat and happy, and it doesn't feel like anything bad can go wrong, but there's some small stuff that can happen and already did happen that makes you feel on edge. You can actually find Cheese and Chocola and Vanilla's dead bodies in the map, but they're the only dead bodies besides Cream if you didn't pick her. But both Cheese and Chocola will be impaled on some of the welcome flags in the map, and Vanilla has probably one of the worst deaths in the game. Her body was decapitated and her head hangs from one of the bridges, and her legs are broken and missing. For the most part, in pretty much all the EXE games that Cream has a prominent role in, this tends to happen to her every time. Her family and pets get brutally slaughtered and there's nothing she can do about it. And in Cream's case, if you don't pick her, she dies exactly like she does in the original Sally.exe game. After gaining too much speed from speed boosting, she's not able to stop and crashes into a spiked wall, killing her instantly and impaling her body. Besides all that though, there's something else that happens to the map that actually makes it a lot more unsettling and eerie to be a part of. At specific intervals, a blackout will happen, making all the lights go out. The music cuts abruptly and you can only hear a slight wind breeze blowing by. You can hear the echoes of your teammates and the killer, but you can't see their icons anymore. It's just you and whatever is in the dark. Hopefully it's friendly. You are able to find a power switch to turn the power back on, and when you do, it just kind of makes it feel like the blackout never happened. It actually adds a lot more to the unsettlingness that Kind and Fair starts to present when you start peeling apart the surface. This is definitely another one of my favorite maps, right next to Not Perfect. I like the atmosphere and the huge tonal shift compared to every other map in the game. The final map in the game is Base, and it belongs to Metal Sonic. Compared to every other map in the game, Base is incredibly stuffy and claustrophobic. It's enclosed and there's not very many open areas. It's primarily based on Scrap Brain Zone, but also has some inspiration taken from the Destiny's level when you play as Metal Sonic. The music, while not depressing or eerie, it makes you feel a bit unnerved, if that makes sense. With how enclosed the map is, it makes it a lot more stressful when the killer spots you because there's not a lot of places to properly run away to. And Base is also simultaneously one of Eggman's hidden bases that was raided by the EXE. You can find a bunch of the bagnets just laying around, dismembered, broken, impaled, not function anymore. You can also find Orbot and Cubot's bodies around the map as well, with Cubot being impaled against the wall and Orbot getting his head ripped off. And if no one picks Metal Sonic, you can find his decapitated head next to his body in one of the areas next to Eggman's broken egg pod. Besides all the destroyed badniks and the fact the map's very stuffy, there's not a lot of kind of the same eerie and depression as some of the other maps have. I don't find that bad, and I actually liked how stuffy the map is, makes it feel a lot more unnerving than it would normally otherwise in any normal game. But there is one other section of the map that is very disturbing. There's an out of order room that when you walk into it, the tone of the map changes completely. There's a bunch of capsules holding a bunch of the animals Eggman uses for his machines, and in the middle there is a table with a massive saw blade above it. When you walk in the room, the music changes and the hue is changed from what normally was in the other section of the maps into a red and dark setting. The implications of what happens in this room is very, very disturbing, but with everything happening in the game at the moment, it's best to let sleeping beasts lie. Besides that, there are some parts of the map that have cameras you can watch to monitor the killer and your teammates, and there's some laser door grids you can activate to help your team or hinder the killer. I think the map is pretty good as well. It's not one of my favorites, but I do like the more claustrophobic feel it invokes compared to all the other maps in the game. Now that all the maps are out of the way, I'm going to talk about what is probably my favorite thing in this genre of games as a whole, and any game for that matter, the Final 80. The Final 80 is what the entire round has been building up to. Everyone that's still alive that helped each other and kept each other alive is going to be here for this. It's the final push and the end of the story this round is presenting. The music changes drastically into a very intense final push segment. The exit's just right there, you just need to get past the killer and make sure everyone can get out alive that hasn't got killed yet. This is where the inspiration from the Choose Your Own Adventure games truly shines the most. Anyone still alive will be here helping everyone else to get out, and anyone that died won't be there to help anyone get out of tight situations they might be in. There are plenty of moments during the Final 80 where if this person was alive, this person wouldn't have died, and vice versa. For every person alive, it makes the final push easier, but simultaneously for everyone dead, it makes it even more harder than it needs to be. This is where everyone's teamwork truly shines. Everyone is giving it their all to get everyone still alive out of the round. I don't know what it is about the Final 80, but it somehow just makes players play way better than they did normally in the round. Maybe it's because they're about to die and they're trying to survive, maybe they want to protect the team, or maybe it's just because of the adrenaline the Final 80 invokes that causes people to play better. Whatever the case is, it will always be one of the most intense moments in any game I've ever played. Every track for every map in the Final 80 fits perfectly and adds a lot more tension than just not changing the music at all. Compared to any other point in the round, when one of your teammates dies here, it feels even worse than it does normally. Compared to when someone dies normally in a round, instead of feeling more hopeless, it gives a sense of invigoration to push through and survive at the end, just so their death wasn't in vain. All that hard work at the end just for one person to get killed unceremoniously right before they're able to leave through the exit gate. But that's why the Final 80 is so invigorating and so adrenaline-inducing. All that hard work pushing through just to get to this final point where even a small slip-up can result in everyone dying. There is so much at stake here during the Final 80, and everyone is going to be on their A game to make sure they win. It feels like the climax of the story that everyone's been trudging through to survive, and this is the end result. And after all is said and done, and you and your team make it through that exit ring, it feels incredibly satisfying. You all are able to survive the hell you were just put through. Some died, some didn't, and maybe only one person got out, but at the end of the day, as long as one person makes it, that's a win for the survivors. I love the Final 80s. There is no other game franchise or genre of games that can compete with how Final 80s feel. That's kind of all for my yapping glazing session of TD. I wanted to give a final send-off to the game before Reimagine drops and just show how much I love the game. Even though the game is going to be gone permanently, what Outlike and the developers did for the game was truly beautiful. I've had some of my funnest moments playing these type of games, and it's thanks to Outlike making this game that games like Dimensional Coalescence and Outcome Memories exist. I love playing Dimensional Coalescence. When I first picked it up, it felt like I picked up TD again. I like their take on the genre as a whole, and I like how incredibly unique everything is compared to what TD did. You know, if my videos wasn't obvious on that. And I'm super excited for Outcome Memories to come out soon. It looks amazing. There's also a lot of hard work going into that game as well. And a reimagining of TD is almost here, and I'm super excited for that as well. I fully plan to make content on Outcome Memories, TD Reimagine, and I'm going to keep making content Dimensional Coalescence, of course. Dimensional Coalescence has a massive update coming in the near future, and I'm really excited to try all the new changes there. Sorry it isn't the kind of content I'm used to making. I just wanted to give TD its final send-off before people move on to other horizons. I'll be back to my crappy videos and shitty meme edits pretty much right after this. I've already started working on the next guide video for Dimensional Coalescence. When TD Reimagine and Outcome Memories drops, I'll probably do a small first impressions video on there, just kind of talking about the games as a whole. And I fully intend to make Metal Sonic videos from both those games as soon as I can. Anyway, thanks for sticking around and listening to me glaze one of my favorite games of all time. Even though the original TD will be gone forever, the legacy left behind cannot be ignored, and I love every single game that's been inspired by this. And I hope everyone looks forward to the content I'm going to be producing here in the future. And make sure to show your support for every game that's been inspired by TD. No one game is better than the other, and they all do amazing work, so I want everyone to just show their appreciation for them. Anyway, have a good one, and thanks for 1,000 subscribers. I'm not sure how I'm going to do to celebrate it yet, but I'll think of something. Anyway, have a good one.